All right. So I've sent you this, and I've also put it in the chat box here on this call. I really recommend that this just something you print out and you have as a visual reminder on your desk or near you. And as I go through each one of these points and kind of give you a better explanation of this, when we're done here today, what I'd like you to do is to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on each tip of every triangle. As far as 10, you got this under control. 5, it's kind of neutral. 1, you really need work on it. Because what I find is when I get feedback from you guys, this helps me decide where to go for training on you guys. So as far as if somebody says, oh man, we've got goal setting, we've got that all under control, there's no issue with that, then I don't devote as much time. But it also gives you a chance to kind of figure out what it is that you might need to work on. So this is on the public domain. Dave Sandler came up with this in the 70s. And if you think about anything that you do, you can be successful if you have the right actions or doing the right behaviors, you have the right feelings or the right attitude, and if you have the right skills or the right techniques. And if you put those together, I've said, like last week or even the week before, I said to people, I'll ask, hey, does how you feel control how you act, or does how you act control how you feel? And many people will say, well, how I feel controls how I act. Because if I wake up this morning, I'm in a good mood, I'll set the world all on fire. And my challenge with that is I agree with that many times, but you can't always control your feelings, but you can always control your actions. So if you're doing the right things, think about it. If you are doing the right behaviors, you're doing the things you need to do, you're checking off each day your to-do list, and you're doing all the behaviors, you're doing the prospecting, you're doing all those things. And then you have the right skills from, whether you get them from me, from the training that I do, read a book or whatever, but you have the right skills and the right behaviors. What's your attitude going to be like? It's going to be positive. So I always get a kick out of these people that wear the lapel pins that say, you just got to have a positive attitude. And how does that happen? You have a positive attitude because you did some behavior. So your feelings or your attitude is made up of really how you feel about the company that you currently work for, how you feel about the marketplace right now, and how you feel about you. And that controls your feelings throughout the day. And how you feel about you is made up of, again, your mind. Do you have a positive mental attitude? Do you have your mind right? Your body, how do you feel about your health, your body, and whether you're in a good physical state? And then your spiritual state. Do you have a good, strong spiritual bond with yourself? So if you sit there and rate yourself, and I'll do it for you guys. Right now, my mind is like probably a 9. I've got a pretty good attitude, positive attitude. My body, I'm really doing really well. I've lost a lot of weight. My son showed me a picture yesterday when I was at 260 pounds a couple of years ago, and I've lost 63 pounds. So my body, I'm feeling pretty good about that. My knees finally working out. I'm not on crutches anymore. So I'd probably say I'm an 8. My spirit, my relationship with God, wear my religion on my sleeve. I don't go out and try and convert everybody, but I know where I'm going when I'm done. So I have a positive. So overall, I'm about a 9 as far as how I feel about me. How I feel about my company, I have a saying, I love my job. I love my boss. I'm self-employed. So I should feel pretty good about my company. The market out there, it's a little slow. People are like really hesitant to do anything. I have a lot of members in our club here that are just like, well, let's wait until after the first of the year. So maybe I'm only about a 6 or a 7 as far as my confidence in the market. But when I put all those together, my feelings come out to about a 7.5 to an 8. So I've got that under control. So then you come down and you look at your actions. Okay, your actions are made up of, do you have the right goals, long-term, short-term, and daily? Do you have a plan to put those goals in action? Do you build a plan? More importantly, do you track it? And do you fine-tune that plan? I like to tell people, we were talking earlier, Nancy and I, about flying. If I'm flying somewhere, usually you can either set your GPS in your airplane and draws a straight line from here to, like if I'm going up to Cheyenne or whatever, and I draw a straight line. 90% of the time, a pilot is off course because the wind blows him off of the degree that he has to go around storm, has to go around controlled airspace, but you're always headed in the right direction. So when people set goals, one of the problems people have and why they don't set goals, and in December we'll do a whole training on that, on goal setting, is because they're afraid, well, I won't reach it. But you need to understand that you need to go ahead and set goals and have the ability to fine tune them, but track where you're really at. And then do you have the drive? Do you have the guts, the discipline, and vitality to put the goals into action? One of the things we talked about when we did the transactional analysis that I hope the rest of you have finished that test and scored yourself, those people with high adaptive child scores usually don't have really good discipline, vitality, and guts to put a plan into action. And let me explain why that is. If you have high adaptive child scores, that means you want to please everybody. You don't want to rock the boat, do whatever the teacher says. So when we give you some of our skills that we talk about as far as training new techniques, a lot of people won't try them because they're afraid they'll upset people. They don't have the guts, discipline, or vitality to put these techniques into action. So again, rate yourself there. Do you have goals? Are they written down? Do you have short-term? Do you have daily goals? Do you have long-term goals? And by the way, long-term goals really shouldn't be more than about 2 years because most things, circumstances change. We have no control over, and somebody sets a 5-year goal, things change. Really to have a goal, long-term, short-term goals that you can really fine-tune, track, and change if you need to without completely changing and upsetting the path that you were on. So again, when you get done today, I want you to go ahead and I want you to score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 at each one of those tips of the triangles on those. Then we come over to what really training that we're doing, the different types of skills that we're trying to give you as far as your personal presence, your communications. Remember, we talk about communications is words, tone, body language. How good are you at really understanding the different characters that you're working with? Are you working with people understanding their DISC profile? Are they a DNI and SRC? What is their behavioral style? Are you really thinking about, hey, people buy from people they like and they trust, and people like me. So what are you doing to kind of bond with people? Do you have that personal presence, the energy, the communications, and your own personal character? Do you then go over to the tactics? Do you do the things we've talked about as far as the reversing, the asking questions, the dummy curve? Remember, the dummy curve isn't being really dumb. It's just being dumb as far as the application of how your product or service can solve a client's problems. And so that you ask questions. Are you doing the negative reverse? How good are you at negative reversing when somebody says, why should I buy from you? That's a great question. I'm not sure if you should. If you were looking for a vendor, what would be important to you? See, that's a negative reverse. It wasn't what they expected. Are you working on that thing? When you look at the close, do you really do a validation of the pain, the budget, and the decision steps as far as the qualifying? Are you doing the ultimate upfront contract at the end of, hey, I'm about ready to show you how our product or service can solve your problem at a price you can afford. But before I do that, I'm just curious, let's pretend you love everything I show you. What would happen next? So are you doing the ultimate upfront contract before you present? Are you doing the upfront contract even before you start and establishing the ground rules? Are you setting the expectations correctly? So that's the strategy over there. Are you doing the fulfillment where you're doing the thermometer close that I've taught you guys? Even if we didn't do it recently, we did it in the onboarding session. So are you, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'm just curious, scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing so far? I got about a third left to show you. How am I doing so far? Are you doing the thermometer close? Are you doing a post-sell? And again, the post-sell is the one for those of you that if you've ever lost after somebody says, yeah, this sounds good, but by the time you get back to the office, they change your mind and send you an email. Hey, don't cash that check. Are you really doing the post-sell? How are your presentation skills? How are you working on that? Are you doing the qualifying step? Again, the pain. Does this person have pain that you can fix? Will they invest the money, the time, and the effort it takes to fix the pain? And can they make a decision to spend the money to fix the pain? So again, when you look at every one of these tips of the triangles on each one of these, and again, this fits with my whole 3D training. Think about a pyramid, 3D. Where do you need work? And where are you the strongest? Because if you're a 10 in each one of those, and nobody's ever a 10 in every tip, but if you're really strong, 8, 9, 10 in each one of these tips, again, your actions are going to be the correct actions. You're going to have the right skill set so that you can put the plan and action into, an actual formative process. And then if you have both those things together, if you have the right actions, right skills, I really believe your attitude's going to be fantastic. So that's why I really recommend, again, if I only had one piece of paper that I could ever train from, it would be similar to this, where we can look at everything that I teach is somewhere along here in detail in this triangle. So that's why I really stress that people should print this out, have it at their desk, and so that you can frequently evaluate what it is that you're doing and what it is that you need to work on. So that is in a nutshell as far as why I think that that's so important. Anybody got any comments, questions? Yeah, buts, Wayne, I don't understand this one. Anything anybody wants to review?
Should this be something that, like, if you have like a personal goal or a fitness goal or business goal, should they all be like separate sheets of paper?
Yes, because again, whatever it is that if you think about that middle triangle, the success, what do you want to be successful at? Do you want to be successful at losing weight? So then what's the action, the goal that you have to do? What are the techniques you should have in losing weight? What's your feelings going to be when you're doing the right technique? So absolutely, as far as that, just think of the middle triangle there, what it is that you want to be successful at. Now, again, this piece of paper is used mostly for people in sales as far as their success in sales, but whatever it is that you want to be successful at, I think it'll be adapted and applied. Matter of fact, quite frankly, I hope it doesn't sound braggadocio, but the way I lost so much weight is by actually doing this success triangle in my weight loss program. As far as, what was my plan? When was I going to do these things? By what time? Do I have to fine tune it? What is the strategies that I had to follow? And, my feelings came as each day I could see, or each week I could see progress because I did the right behaviors. If I didn't find progress and I felt the down or dejected because I wasn't losing the weight I wanted, it was because I wasn't doing a behavior. So that's a good point to bring up, Janelle, is what it is that you want to be successful at, and you can apply this success triangle at each one of those. But again, I just always got a kick out of Zig Ziglar, some of these motivational speakers who would just say things like, you just got to have a positive attitude. And I think, well, how do you do that? How do you just say to yourself, well, I'm going to have a positive attitude? It's usually a behavior that you do that leads to that. Whether it's go take a walk, whether it's do a certain behavior, whatever it is, there's always a behavior that can dictate your feelings. Anybody else have a comment
Thanks.
on this? Go ahead. Nobody else? Somebody started to talk, I thought. Okay. Will you do that for me? Will you go ahead and, you don't have to share it all with me, but what I'd like you to do is go ahead and rate yourself at the tip of each one of these triangles, scale of 1 to 10. And then just send me a note. Hey, Wayne, based on reflection of doing this, I think I need to work on this skill, or I need to work on this, so that I know where to kind of lead the training as we go into the future, because I'm getting feedback from my students as far as what it is that you think we need some support in. I've got over 140 PowerPoints I've developed over the years, they don't all apply to everybody. So that's why I wanted you to kind of give me a little bit of feedback as to where you'd want to go with this. Okay. Nothing else on this one before I move on. I'll be glad to move on to the next program that I have if you want me to, or I can stay in here. All right. Well, I will move on, but come back to okay.
Wayne,
Nancy, are you seeing the new screen now, Art of Networking?
Yeah, I am seeing the new screen. I was just going
Go
to tell you that this is actually, I appreciate that you're giving this to do because it's actually a lot more thinking and putting down numbers and looking into each area. You know, it's just not like, how's your physical health 1 to 10?
Mhm.
It's going into our personal finances or personal skills. It's digging down deep into the sections that make components of that whole overall being. So it's,
I would just tell you, I went through this myself back in '92 when the first time I saw this, and it just made such a difference in me visual. I'm a visual person. Remember we talk about visuals, auditory, and kinesthetic as far as how people take in information.
Yeah.
55% of the world, most people are visual, that they process information visually. 23% are auditory. They need to hear about it. And kinesthetic people just absorb it because it's a feeling. For me, being a visual person, it really helped me understand what areas that and really understand the 7 steps that I was going through as far as the techniques. So I hope it has the same type of impact on some of you guys as it did for me.
so when you fill it out, now you probably just look at each section and you kind of know where you're at. I'm cheap, so I printed it out in color. There I
Yeah.
go.
Good.
And then I put stickies on it. So I could put a date on the sticky so that I could set that aside and kind of hide it. So in the future, I can go out and pull it and look at it again.
Okay, you're that high achiever the rest of us hate it in school, right?
No, it
You
wasn't.
said you did the bell curve too high for the rest of us. Okay. Good for you. Yeah, whatever it needs to do to track it. Again, what I do typically is I'll just maybe once a month, I'll go back and I'll reflect what I did last month and I'll write a new one for this month. For me, since I know each one of the techniques so well, I just have to sometimes decide that, hey, this week I wasn't doing a very good job on upfront contract. So I want to focus this next week on making sure I establish strong upfront contracts with people. By the way, side note, I got to tell you guys a story. You know that a lot of my stuff, and some of you've heard about Dave Sandler, and Dave Sandler was the guru who came up with a lot of this sales training. So I was almost fired in my last job, really before I became self-employed. And my boss said, you need to go to the Sandler training this Saturday. It's $500 for the 3-hour workshop. And if you don't go, don't show up for work on Monday. That's how close it was. And I went to this training with that kind of attitude about, oh, this is a bunch of crap and all this stuff. But I learned a lot, so much so that that was October 15th, 1992. In the next 45 days, I became the rookie of the year for the company. Hadn't made a sale, but in 45 days, I beat everybody else. Same person, I just learned a really good system. So I couldn't wait to meet Dave Sandler, who came up with all this. I listened to all his videotape. That time, everything was on the cassette tapes and a book and all that kind of stuff. And my trainer, Terry Slattery from Minneapolis, came to me and he said, Wayne, Sandler's going to be at the Hilton Hotel, the Palmer House Hotel in Chicago doing a session. Would you like to go see him? Oh my God, yeah. And I couldn't, and I'll introduce you to Dave. And I thought, wow, great. I get to meet the guru. And I rehearsed for my lines. I was going to go up to him and say, hey, Dave, I just want to shake your hand and thank you for saving my financial life. I was almost fired, but I became a top salesman because of your content. But at every one of the breaks, everybody was coming up to him and surrounding him. I couldn't get through the crowd to him. So I followed him to the bathroom. Seriously. He's standing at the urinal and I'm nervous. I want to meet him. And I reach out my hand and I go, hi, Dave, Wayne Dean. I just want to thank you for saving my financial. And he turned and looked at me like, what did you idiot? I'm trying to go to the bathroom here. And he washed his hands and he said, so you really like our stuff? I said, oh yeah, I really love all this training stuff. Love the success triangle, love all this. And he goes, so show me your attitude behavioral journal. And I go, what do you mean? He says, well, show me how you track this. Remember, part of this is that you have to track this. So I want to show me how you write down and that you track how you're doing at each one of these steps of this triangle. And I said, oh, I don't do that. And he said, well, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to start tracking your attitude, behavior, and actions. Are you doing these things? And the next time I see you, I want you to show it to me how you've tracked all this behavior. So for months, I tracked my behavior. And then he fell on his yacht in Baltimore Harbor and died of kidney failure. So I never got to show him my attitude behavioral journal where I do this. But it's made such an impression on me. I still continue to use this piece of paper to track my behaviors, my attitude. And I just always know that if my attitude suffers, if I'm having a down period of time, I can go back and look that, you know what, you're right. I didn't do the right behaviors and I wasn't sharpening my skill set at the different skills that I'm trying to learn. So enough on that one. But yeah, I couldn't wait to be able to see Dave Sandler, and then I never got to meet him, quite frankly, other than that first time. All right. Anything else before we move on? You guys ready? Okay, here we go. Stop me if you have to. All right. So when we think about anything that you guys do, and if you have any role in your company in developing leads, prospecting, one of the things I came up with, you won't find this anywhere else. This is my own. I think that a wheel, if you think about a bicycle wheel, it's only as strong as the number of spokes. If that wheel, a wagon wheel or any type of wheel, only has 2 spokes, it's going to collapse. So when you start thinking about prospecting, I always tell people, tell me what it is that you do or your company does that you even have any influence over, that you have anything to do with, that brings in or generates leads for your company. And most people come up with, well, we go to networking events, or we go play lost, or we just go door to door, knocking on doors, prospecting door to door, putting out door hangers or whatever. Yeah, we'll go to a trade show once in a while. But most people tell me referrals are the number one thing. And other people add things here like LinkedIn prospecting, direct mail, whatever it is, DM, and they come up with the top sales reps have multiple spokes in their wheel of fortune. And what I mean by that is they work that wheel all the time. So do you have does your company, even if you aren't a salesperson, but you yourself have any influence over your company, do you actually have a diagram, even again for you as visual, of this in your office as far what are the prospecting activities that we do consistently on a week-to-week basis that, again, we can track and that we can fine tune what works, what doesn't work, what are we doing, or are we just winging it? You know, if I ask most salespeople to describe for me their sales system on a vanity license plate, it would be wing it. They don't really have a systematic approach. And so when we talk about these things as far as your prospecting, what is your company doing consistently? And is it visualized? Are you writing it down, keeping track of the things that work and the things that don't work? And as the other sheet that we showed, the success triangle, are you fine tuning it? Are you tracking it? Do you have the guts, discipline, vitality to do some of these things? So in the movie, the reason I do this quote, this is John Connery in the movie The Untouchables, when Elliot Ness, Kevin Costner's character, was trying to recruit him to help him get Capone. He said, help me get Capone. You're the only honest cop in Chicago. And his quote was, what are you prepared to do? If he takes out 4 of your people, you take out 10 of his. So what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to do what it takes, all right, to actually help your company in prospecting or in your own goals? You need to ask yourself this: can I and will I do the necessary behaviors to make my goal a reality? If you say yes, it's goal oriented, it's attainable, it promotes actions, and it's reality based, then it's an active goal. But if your goal is chance oriented, it's whimsical. I just hope someday I win the lottery. I hope somebody hits me in my car just hard enough that I can sue them and make whatever it is. If it's that type of a goal, it's passive. So the goals that you set, the number one thing you should do is ask yourself, can I and will I do the necessary behaviors to make the goal a reality? Then it's an active goal. Otherwise, if you won't do the necessary behaviors, it's just a passive goal. So when we talk about networking, though, I want you to understand networking isn't just about attending network events, going to a BNI, going to a Chamber of Commerce. It's really a systematic method to build business relationships, even if it's just some type of a relationship that not somebody isn't going to use your product or service. They themselves don't need it, but they'll be your arm to go find somebody else that will need your product or service. But you really need to have a networking mindset. Those of you that really need, if you say, hey, I could be more successful, or a company could be more successful if we could just, and you finish that with, if we just had more clients, or we just had more prospects, then it's probably because you're not really thinking of networking as part of your business prospecting activity. So I go to 3 networking events every week. I have a rule that I go to 3 network events, whether I go to meetup.com, whether I use Alignable, whether I go to a Chamber of Commerce event, if I go to the Realities for Children that I'm sure Nancy's familiar with, if I go to any type of networking event, I go to 3 every single week. And I have a 3-foot rule. The 3-foot rule is if I get within 3 foot of somebody, they get my business card. You know, I get a kick out of people. Business cards are the cheapest form of advertising. Even if you yourself aren't the prospecting tool of your company, if you're out somewhere, hand out your business cards of the person in your company that does do prospecting, whoever is a salesperson, help them. Because again, it's not necessarily who you talk to at a networking event that could use your product or service. It's who they know that might need your product or service. So have a prospecting mindset to actually go out there and do it every single week. There we go. All right. So challenges in networks, you know, getting started, that's just a lot of people as far as I don't even like to go to networking events. You know, I get a kick out of salespeople who don't like to go to networking events. I would rather get turned down face to face than I would over the phone. I'd rather go see somebody where I can see their demeanor, I can see their body language. I'd rather talk to somebody face to face than pick up the phone. But there are some people that would rather make 100 dials and get rejected 99 times than go to a networking event. But starting a conversation with somebody you don't know can also be kind of challenging to a lot of people. My tip on that one is this: they don't really care about you. It's asking them about themselves is the best way to get started. So tell me what you do. And if the person says, well, I'm a plumber. Oh, that must be easy. And then they're, no, it's really hard to find. And, well, what's so hard about your job? And let them say, oh my gosh, finding people doing this, whatever it is. Let them talk about themselves. That's why most people are afraid to start conversations. So they think it's about you. It's mostly about them. Identifying the right group to join or business contacts. Again, if you're going to go to 3 networking events each week, just rotate. I mean, Nancy, you said earlier that, Deborah, that Mark was in BNI. I think BNI can be fantastic, but typically what I find is a BNI, usually after about a year, you've kind of exhausted all the leads within that BNI unless they're growing and bringing in a lot of other people. So I recommend switching from US Referral Network, the BNI, to some of these other networking events that you can find. Go to different ones. There's a lot of different ones because it only takes one. I get a kick out of people. I used to be in a very big, strong BNI, and when people didn't renew, they'd say, because I didn't get any leads. And I'd say, yeah, but how many did you give? You need to go to networking events as far as thinking, I'm going there as a matchmaker. I'm trying to go. You can't ask for a referral from somebody else unless you're giving them. So you need to change your mindset about how you're going. Again, set goals for these networking events.
So the
But
only issue that I have with like the three networking events a week is that I honestly don't want to be a professional networker. I just want to be able to get my few networking groups that I really like. Maybe 2. I think I have like 2, maybe I have 3, but I don't know if I do something every single week with every single one of them. But I don't want to always be out networking because I actually want to work.
well, as I said, I set the goal of, for me, 3. But if you wanted to only do 1 or none, I mean, that's, again, just set a goal. And if that's the case, as far as, hey, one new network in a month, Janelle, if that maybe is even what you want. But again, it goes back to that first page we had about the success triangle. set the goal, long-term, short-term, daily, and then build the plan, fine tune it. And so whatever fits for but what I always say to people is until you got so many leads you don't know what to do with, at least add networking as part of your Wheel of Fortune, one of the spokes in your system.
Oh yeah, you have to keep doing it. I mean, even if I get busy, I need to at least stay out there because once it dries up, then there's that lag time again. So you
Yeah, I
really
see
do
that a
have to,
lot of.
even when you're busy, you have to keep networking.
Now, that's the problem with most people's pipeline. And when the pipeline's full, everything's great. And then when the pipeline's empty, then they start thinking, oh, I got to do something. You're always, it's kind of like I do a training on pipeline, filling your pipeline. Dehydration, thirst is your body telling you at the early stages of dehydration. So, nutritionists tell you drink 8 glasses of water a day to stay hydrated throughout the day so you don't get to that point. But salespeople tend not to do that with their prospecting. They prospect, and then they go run a bunch of leads. And then all of a sudden they look back and go, oh, I didn't fill my pipeline. So always continue to do whatever your Wheel of Fortune activity is to keep that pipeline full. What differentiates you from the competition? What are you doing differently at a networking event that everybody else isn't doing? Or are you just doing the same thing that everybody's doing? Are you doing a good job of following up? You'd be surprised how many people go to these networking events and, yeah, did you follow up with the people? And they didn't even follow up. Finding effective tools that you can use that after the networking, online networking. Again, building those relationships quickly is really kind of a struggle. Sometimes this takes seeing somebody at 2 or 3 different times at a networking event before that person agrees to have an appointment with you. Or, a lot of reasons that people don't go to networking events is because they think they treat it just like cold calling, and they get frustrated when, they make cold calls and they get rejected. So they don't want to get rejected at networking events. So these are some of the reasons why people don't do a lot of networking. So let me give you a couple tools on what you should think about going in there. Lay the foundation for having a commitment to the process. Are you willing to step out your comfort zone and try a couple of networking events? Again, do you have the right attitude? Because you're thinking about, I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to bother people. Or, boy, I'm not bothering people. I might end up matching up somebody and really helping somebody else. And so that's why I'm going networking. Do you have a passion for really what it is that you want to get out of networking? And are you taking responsibility for doing those behaviors? And so if you really went and rated yourself on, do you have a commitment to prospecting and networking? Do you have the right attitude? Do you really have a passion for it? It's amazing when I've had people actually turn these scores into me, how low they really are on a scale of 1 to 10. But again, it's all individualized. Leave it up to you if you want to go that way. But then sit there and say, okay, my lowest rated foundation is, and why? If you look at these things and you say, which one is the lowest, you kind of question yourself, why is this the lowest that I feel about my honesty toward these activities? And then once when you get to a networking event, I want you to think about it this way. A couple of different things. When you go to a networking event, a lot of times what happens is there'll be 2 people over here, Janelle and Deborah talking, and everybody's already paired up. And maybe every once in a while, there's one person by themselves that you could go up and have a conversation with. But really what I do is I walk up to people and if Janelle and Deborah are talking, I'll just walk, I'm sorry, I don't want to bother you, but would you guys take my card so I can leave? And they go, what? What do you mean? I said, well, I have a rule that as long as I give out or I collect 5 business cards, I get to leave. What I want you to think about is when you go to a networking event, I want you to be task oriented, not time conscious. And what I mean by that is a lot of salespeople say, oh, I already worked 60 hours this week. I'm not going to go to the after dinner or the after hours chamber event tonight. It's from 5 to 7. I'm going to be there 2 hours. I don't want to spend. No, go at 5:30 and leave at 5:45. You're only there 15 minutes, but you gave out or you collected 5 business cards. Have a goal for but again, I want you to be task oriented, not necessarily time conscious when you go to the networking events. And remember, when you're there, we talked about this before. Remember, words are only 7% of your way of communicating to somebody. Tone is 38%, and your body language on the event is 55%. So let me move into a couple of slides here that whether you guys have been zoned out on me already if you're not into networking. That the next kind of understanding body language can maybe be helpful to everybody on this call. Remember, make eye contact. When you don't look somebody in the eyes, it can signal to them, they read it as deception or lack of respect. So a lot of people say, well, I get self-conscious trying to stare at somebody's eyes. Well, I look at the tip of somebody's nose. I'm not looking right in their eyes, but they can't tell the difference. So again, when I'm really meeting for somebody in the first time, I look at the tip of their nose. I don't try and look down. I try and make eye contact if possible. No slouching. Remember, bad posture signals to other that you lack confidence in your product or service. So how many of you just heard your mom sit up straight, right? We go back to those kind of feelings. Don't angle away from somebody. Again, if you think about it, too much physical distance and angling your body, it's kind of like you're deflecting from that person. So don't angle away from somebody. Square up your shoulders to the person and face them face on. Fidgeting, touching hair, playing with your jewelry, it can signal discomfort or anxiety. So be careful about kind of projecting that you're nervous or don't have nervous excess energy and aren't comfortable discussing your product or service. Don't fold your arms down. Remember, most of you already know this one, that folding your arms can signal that you're, closed off to this person, disinterested in what they have to say. If you do it, just do it short term. If you catch yourself doing it, put your arms down your side or in your pocket, but try not to be closed off to that person. Again, don't keep looking down. When you look down while making a point, it loses all of its power and may look weak. In everyday interactions and make you look uncomfortable or self-conscious. So you probably will recognize this on other people now when you're out there seeing people, that if they look down, and take these again, not necessarily for networking, even if you're making a presentation to somebody for your product or service, if you're meeting somebody doing an interior design, or you're doing some type of a show with somebody, remember, don't look down when you're trying to go over the pain points that you have or what you can do to solve their problems. It really looks that you're uncomfortable if you look down. Again, we talked about no frowning or scowling. Again, often unintentional. These people read it as a negative, that you might have disagreed with what they said. So be careful about that. Invading other space. Most of us have about a 1.5 foot range where if somebody gets too close us within that 1.5 foot, they're invading our space. So it signals disrespect that you don't have a clear understanding of certain personal boundaries. So be careful about invading people's space. And remember, when somebody gives you their business card, I want you to take a moment to write down on that business card something to note about that person, so that you don't just stuff it in your bag or pocket, and then you go back and you've got 20 business cards after being out at an event and you don't remember anything. Write something down about that person. Write something personal. Now, even if it's something that I would write, just like maybe put a star in the upper hand corner for somebody that I don't bother. When I get back to the office, throw it in the garbage can. Or, boy, this is somebody I need to follow up on right away. And I put that up in the upper or the lower other part of their business card. Do something with the business card so that you can go back to the office and quickly go through your cards. Same thing as if you're working at a trade show, you've collected these cards and now you know which ones you should go through quickly or which ones you could discard. Most of you understand this. You've already defined your target marketing, so I don't really need to go into that much detail. But again, what I want you to come up with is, what is your USP? And that is your unique selling proposition. Clearly define what it is that you have that it makes you, again, different is better than better. What is it that makes you different so that you can, at a networking event, quickly describe to somebody, typically we work with people who this, and this, and this is how we solve their problem that makes us different than our client. If you write down what your unique selling proposition is, what'll happen is you won't be stammering for words. You won't be disengaged with somebody. You'll actually be able to recite right away what is that differential, unique value proposition that you have. All right, so I think I've covered a lot in today's session. I want to open it up to you guys. What comments, even things that you might think that you do that helps everybody else? What are you taking away from today's session?
My preferred way is not networking per se, but building deeper relationships. And so the networking is going out and finding new people to connect with all the time. And sometimes that works. But it's not worked as strongly for me. But I like building community relationships through like Rotary and different service organizations. So
Good for
that's
you.
where I focus more of my time.
And that's probably one of your Wheel of Fortune activities. If we go back to the Wheel of Fortune spokes, it's one of the spokes that you find is strong that
Yeah.
you need to do. When I ask, we talk about 3D, if you don't remember, we talk about get the appointment, make the presentation, close the sale. Sales is easy. Are you doing the marketing activities so that you can schedule appointment setting? Appointment setting is job one. Without appointments, we're all out of business. Appointment setting, job one. Then presentation. What are you doing to bond rapport with somebody so they accept your presentation? And then are you doing the skills that we talked about for closing? So, sales is easy, but when I find companies that hire me that are struggling, it's not because they can't close, it's because they're not doing enough to see enough people. That's really what it comes down to. They don't have a prospecting awareness as a company. Maybe one or two salespeople do, but even the people in the company that is their jobs, I back up a little bit. I had a company down in Texas that I trained, and they had a big issue between the salespeople and the customer service people. Customer service people thought, we're the ones that do all the work. We're the ones that service the product. And the salespeople were like, no, we're the ones, you don't have a job unless a sale is made. And they actually had an archway they put on that the people had to walk through that said, remember, sales agent is king. You don't have a job until a sale is made. Now that offended a lot of people, but I will tell you, there's a lot of truth to that though, isn't there? So is your company, even the people working in the accounting department, doing stuff to help support the sales team by having a prospecting awareness and doing other things? So some people take it to heart, and everybody in the whole company, if the whole company is thinking about what we have to do to attract and bring in new potential leads, then the company as a whole benefits from it. So what is your Wheel of Fortune activity? So what I hope you get out of this session today is two pieces of paper. One, your Wheel of Fortune activity, just draw a wheel with spokes. What are the activities you guys are consistently doing or should be doing? And then the success triangle. Are you tracking the different 3 points of the triangle? Okay. Anybody else got a comment, questions? 45 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Come on. Again, not everything's a golden nugget. Maybe, I throw out a bunch of stuff at a training like this, and maybe there's one thing that becomes, something that you do.
I like, because,
Go ahead, Jenna.
because I work by myself. So, I have to put on every single hat. So I like to use my networking to try to get people to be my salespeople, and get them to trust me and like me, oh, please like me. No. But then they can go out and, if they hear of somebody that needs a graphic designer, then they're like, oh, yeah, I know this girl. She's really nice and she listens. And, so they're my sales people since I'm the only one in my company. So that's what I like to do.
Good for you. How did we meet?
At
At
a
a networking
networking
event.
event.
At a networking luncheon.
Yeah.
It just proves, networking works. Again, that's that old line. Nothing works unless you do. Right. So are you doing the necessary?
Yeah. So I'm not always looking, when I meet people, I'm not looking to necessarily get business from them, but I'm looking to gain enough value and trust in them that they will refer me to somebody else.
All right. So let's do this. I'll be glad to answer some more questions, but I just want to remind you, I want you this week to go ahead and do these tips of each one of the triangle, and then send me an email of what's an area you'd like to work on, so that I can address that at our training next week. And then the next 2 trainings after that, we will do how to negotiate with a savvy buyer. Will be one of the trainings that we have coming up. I think that'll be on the 22nd of October on how, so I'll put together the curriculum for some of the things we're going to do as we go forward. But and then in December, at the end every year, I always do for the next year, kind of like goal setting, how to do goal setting, 21 barriers to success, what holds us back, and 17 habits of highly successful people. No, Stephen Covey didn't write the book first. So that'll be in our December sessions that we'll go through. But in the meantime, kind of give me a little bit more feedback what you want. Obviously, also on the Wednesday of Thanksgiving week, we won't have anything that week as far as a training. On the 22nd, does anybody have an issue if I move our training back 2 hours? My wife has got a knee replacement surgery scheduled for the 22nd, and I probably won't be able to get out until the afternoon. Is anybody, if we move back to 1 o'clock Mountain Time, going to be okay with that on the 22nd? All right. Okay.
That's fine.
I'll send a note to remind everybody that we're going to do that. All right, Deborah, you unmuted yourself. Is there something you're going to add?
Yes, actually, I was curious how you utilize Alignable and those other online networking groups. We're part of Alignable, but I've never really dabbled in it more than being on it.
That's the one of the questions I get, not only of Alignable, but on LinkedIn or is Meetup. Should I pay for the subscription and pay for it, or the free one? The Alignable doesn't really work as well unless you pay for it and go to, I think it's the $30 a month version. But again, when you do any of these programs like this, the hardest thing is setting the time aside to actually devote to it. I mean, Sunday afternoons, 4 o'clock, I work on my LinkedIn, where I have used Sales Navigator. So 4 o'clock, and I got into that habit years ago when I was driving back from our lake house. Every Sunday afternoon, I'd be back, and Lori would drive, and I'd be online as we drove in the car, pulling down 20 names off of LinkedIn and doing 20 email letters as part of my Wheel of Fortune activities. Same thing with Alignable. If you're going to try and build relationships, and Alignable is basically a referral network. It's not as robust as LinkedIn, but that's what it's for, is to help you build professional relationships online. But if you're going to do it, you actually really have to say, I'm going to spend an hour a week, and you have to be consistent about it. Because if you don't, what you'll find is 2 or 3 weeks go by, you didn't do anything, and then you sit there and say, why am I paying for this? So I think that you have to go and, like my drill sergeant said in the Army, you got to play full out. If you're going to participate in any of these, meetup.com, Alignable, you got to play full out. But those are the only 3 social ones that I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, quite frankly. I do Meetup, Alignable, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
But again, you gotta set time. It's like when you do your schedule for the week, and you sit there and say, okay, Monday is I'll pull in one of my calendars. Monday was my production day, where I didn't take any appointments because I spent all my time on Monday doing the activities I needed to do to fill my week of appointments. And then Tuesday morning, I would do my administrative stuff. And then I'd run a 1 o'clock, a 3 o'clock, and a 5 on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'd do a 9, 11, a 1, 3, and a 5. And then on Thursday, I'd do a 9, 11, 1, 3, 5, and a 7. And then Friday, a 9 and 11. And then take Friday afternoon off to do my social media stuff. You have to have a dedicated script of how you're going to do the right behaviors. You just can't, because I get a lot of salespeople who go, oh, when do I have time to prospect? I did all these other things. Well, you've got to have that, again, go back to your success triangle. You got to have the guts, the discipline, and the vitality to put the plan into action. And that's why, again, that whole slide that I just showed you that I printed off, that success triangle is so important, and each one relies on the other. Because you can have goals. How many people have goals? A lot of people tell goals, right? And then I'll say, where are they? And oh, they're in a drawer somewhere. They're not fine-tuned. They're not tracked. They don't have the guts and discipline to do the goal that they set originally. What are you prepared to do? Will you and can you do the necessary behaviors? So if you're not going to devote an hour to Alignable, don't waste the money to sign up for it. I hope that didn't sound preachy to you. I didn't mean it to be.
No, honestly, all of this networking stuff is a foreign thing to me, and I am an adaptive child. So it's, yeah, going in, introducing myself, that's not something I do. And so, yeah, even just connecting with people who I do not know on those social media or anywhere is not something I typically do to try and fine tune a relationship. So just the thought of having people I don't know as part of that group is foreign. And so expanding that is something that would be even just something that would be helpful.
Okay. One of the trains that we haven't done, that I need to add to our curriculum is, give them a pickle. So I'm going to do that training. I don't know if you've ever, is anybody online here, do they have a Farrell's ice cream parlor near you? Ever hear of it? Farrell's ice cream? So, yeah, well, then I'll do a training. There's a whole customer service on Old Man Farrell, who's his whole, what are you giving people at a networking event? So they remember you. So it's a lot easier to walk up to somebody and give them a little Chotsky and start a conversation than just create one out of thin air. So I'll do that training on. It's called give them a pickle to get people engaged with you. I'll add that to probably our first week in November kind of training. Okay, anybody else? All right. So you know the assignment for the week. Finish the 1 to 10 on each one of the tips of the triangle, and then give me a little bit of feedback on what technique, what area that we need to work on. And I'll add that to our curriculum for the next week. Okay. All right. Call me if you need me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.